I haven't been excited for a OnePlus phone in quite some time, but after taking this for a spin, the new OnePlus 10T, in some ways, it's the one I've been wanting for ages. OnePlus as a brand, to me, has been a bit of a blur over the past few years. It started as a smartphone manufacturer poised to disrupt the industry, making smartphones with top-shelf specs, premium build quality, and optimized pure Android experience, all at a price point that aggressively undercuts the bigger guys. This formula was the epitome of their never settle mantra, making it a hit amongst enthusiasts that ultimately grew the brand's cult following. However, fast forward to 2022, and OnePlus isn't quite the same. Oppo, who's had a looming influence on the company in the past, now has more of its fingerprints on the operation. But despite what people on the internet might have to say about the current OnePlus, that hasn't really affected what I think about the 10T. In fact, I actually like it way more than I thought I would. As always, this isn't a comprehensive review, but rather some key observations from the week I've spent with the OnePlus 10T. First of all, unlike the T models of the past, this phone isn't a replacement of the 10 Pro. Priced at $649 for the base model with 128 gigs of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM, it's an entry-level flagship that's aiming to bring high-end performance at a lower price point, hitting similar targets to the Pixel 6 and undercutting Apple and Samsung by $150. And for crazy power users, an extra $100 gets you double the storage and double the RAM. So what does the OnePlus 10T give you as an entry-level flagship? The back, believe it or not, is made of glass, which has this interesting texture that reminds me a little bit of the sandstone OnePlus used to make. Just a little smoother, but adds some grip while holding the phone. Also, it's just rather nice on the eyes, catching light in a unique way that makes it sparkle. Now, it's certainly cool that OnePlus has found a way to make glass look and feel different, but all this effort seems a bit odd to me, considering they took a step back and removed wireless charging. At that point, you can make an argument for plastic. It'll certainly hold up to accidents better, and if Google or Samsung can make their backs feel close enough to glass, it can certainly be done with minimal compromise to its premiumness. And it'll also make the phone cheaper too. OnePlus's counterpoint to omitting Qi charging is that it can juice up insanely quick. SuperVOOC Endurance Edition allows the 10T to charge at a staggering 125 watts, getting the large 4800 mAh battery to 100% in 20 minutes. Hell, the lock screen charging animation will even read the battery percentage to the 100th decimal just to rub it in. And to make sure this phone doesn't blow up or overheat while taking all that current, it has safety and preservation measures to manage it all. In fact, OnePlus says that the battery should retain up to 80% of its original health after 1600 charge cycles. But with how quick the 10T charges, it genuinely makes me think differently about battery. Most days, I'm within easy reach of a wall outlet. So the fact that I can get the phone mostly charged or topped off in the time it takes to go to the bathroom or grab a drink is a luxury I'll miss even going back to my daily driver iPhone, which already manages its power fairly well. The wicked fast charging is especially nice if you plan on getting the OnePlus 10T for gaming, which it's unsurprisingly excellent at considering its flagship chops. My review unit is the top-of-the-line power user spec, running the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 SoC, cooled with the largest vapor chamber OnePlus has put on a phone, also 16 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, some of which you can allocate to system memory if you, for some reason, need even more RAM. They also have this HyperBoost gaming feature to manage it all, which smoothens frame rates, reduces input latency, and optimizes power consumption. It's hard to say how much all of this actually does for the OnePlus 10T without taking a magnifying glass to it. But in real-world use, everything from Genshin to COD Mobile runs beautifully at 60 FPS while graphically maxed out. Oxygen OS 12 also comes with a simple gaming overlay that's somewhat useful. Performance toggles and even Discord are a swipe away from either top corner. Best of all, it's out of accidental reach if you just want to ignore that it exists. Though I do find it interesting that Oxygen OS 13 is coming out alongside the 10T, but won't be launching on the phone itself. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it is at another point in time. Content looks very nice on the 6.7-inch 1080p 120Hz display. Nothing earth-shattering in the scheme of flagships, but it's very responsive and gets decently bright. The last point of curiosity I had was with the cameras, which to me has been historically a letdown. While I haven't had a chance to try out the OnePlus 10 Pro with its Hasselblad image processing for comparison, I'm at least more satisfied with the 10T's camera than I remember being with older OnePluses. Photos from the 50-megapixel main shooter, the sensor of which is shared with that 10 Pro, is fairly sharp and detailed. There's an 8-megapixel ultra-wide lens and a 2-megapixel macro, which is always fun to shoot with, even if it is just a gimmick. And sadly, there's no telephoto, with this 2x over here just being a digital crop. Okay, so the OnePlus 10T is a competitive entry-level smartphone in many ways. But what does it say about the Oppo-fication of OnePlus? Nobody wants to see an underdog fall to a big player. But while it seems like they settled, I'd rather look at it as the company maturing along with the smartphone space. It might sound a bit sad, but take the glasses off and their phones, while harboring some unique aspects here and there, can still easily camouflage into the sea of rectangles. Even for myself as a tech YouTuber, and there's no way for me to say this without sounding like an asshole, but when part of the job is evaluating tons of smartphones at any given time, and finding interesting things to even talk about, I can empathize with the fact that it's harder than ever to make a product stand out above the rest. The reality is that specifically here in my home market of the US, OnePlus serves as a surrogate competitor for BBK, otherwise known as the Chinese umbrella company that also owns Oppo and Vivo. And considering how hard it is for the vast majority of Chinese brands to make a meaningful impression on the market, makes OnePlus's modest presence in the West even more significant. But understandably, this also makes it important for Oppo to capitalize on. An upside to the company's legacy and the tech enthusiasts that make up its fandom, they never settle, but also never forget. Prior to the 10T's launch, it was found out that OnePlus omitted the iconic alert slider from the phone, and the response was expectedly negative. Now personally, I'm not one to cry over a little switch, but it's more about what it represents. The alert slider was one of the last tentpole features that made a OnePlus a OnePlus. The takeaway is that people still care about the brand and what it originally stood for. Oppo would be stupid to ignore the nuance involved with marketing OnePlus products. And luckily, I think they get it. Their response to the alert slider controversy erred on the side of transparency, telling the press that it takes up a surprising amount of motherboard space and that leaving it out helps fit their fast charging components, more battery capacity, and improve their antennas. I'm no engineer, but considering all of these are reasons why I ended up loving the 10T, I'll just take their word for it. When you consider that the 10T follows most of the core OnePlus formula, top shelf specs, premium build quality, an optimized clean Android experience, and at a competitive price, I'd say that Oppo and OnePlus are still keen on preserving the brand, at least for the time being, and I think that deserves at least some credit.